My wife claimed I was unstable, to steal our baby, then her father hired someone to make it true. Hi, I'm Nate, 31, and 3 weeks ago, I watched the woman I love lie to a judge while the man who used to call me son smiled like he'd won something. I wasn't always the guy who records everything. But you'd start too if your wife tried to claim you were unstable to take full custody of your newborn right after she and her father locked you out of your own house. Our daughter, Maggie, is 6 months old. She was unplanned, yes, but not unloved. I changed every diaper, warmed every bottle, sang every lullaby. I took leave from work to be a present dad. While Amy slept in, I took the 4 a.m. shifts. While she posted filtered motherhood on Instagram, I handled the cracked nipples, the fevers, the teething. The night everything changed, I was cooking dinner steak, her favorite, while Maggie napped in her swing. Amy came in with her father, Martin, a man with gold cufflinks and a god complex. I said hey, kissed her cheek, and he looked at me like I was the butler who forgot his wine. Amy walked into the nursery and picked Maggie up like a prop. Martin turned to me and said, "You'll be leaving tonight." I blinked. "Come again? This isn't working. Amy and the baby will stay. You will collect your things and leave." I laughed. Thought it was a joke. Then Amy came back with a folder. Custody petition. Filed without my knowledge. Emergency hearing scheduled for Monday. I looked at her, and she couldn't even meet my eyes. "You're really doing this?" I asked. "You're unstable, Nate," she said. "You record things. You talk to yourself. You scare me." I stared at her. "I narrate bedtime stories into my phone so I don't forget them. That's me scaring you?" Martin stepped closer. "Don't make this harder than it has to be." So I did the only thing I could do. I left. I kissed Maggie's forehead, whispered, "Daddy loves you," and walked out. Slept in my car that night, outside the only lawyer I could afford the next morning. His name was Brett. He wore a wrinkled suit, ate sunflower seeds during our meeting, and said, "This ain't my first fake psych claim, man. We'll fight it." Then he gave me a tip that changed everything. "Start recording. Everything. Keep a log. She wants to say you're unstable? Let's show who really is." So I did. I recorded Amy calling me at 2 a.m., asking how to swaddle the baby. I recorded her texting, "Maggie won't stop crying. Can you come over?" I recorded Martin screaming at a pediatric nurse when she said the baby was underweight. And I recorded myself reading, "Goodnight Moon," into a recorder because I couldn't fall asleep without pretending Maggie could hear me. By Monday, I had a folder. Not just for Brett, for the judge. The hearing didn't go how they expected. But it was only the beginning. We stood before the judge that Monday morning, the kind of beige room that smells like fear and dry carpet. Amy wore a navy blue blouse and pearls her, concerned mother, costume. Martin sat behind her with a face like a marble statue. I wore the same wrinkled shirt from Friday. Because I hadn't been home since. Amy's lawyer, a slick guy named Fisher with an expensive haircut and no soul behind his eyes, began with a confident tone. "Your Honor, my client is requesting temporary full custody of the infant due to concerns regarding the father's mental health and erratic behavior." He paused like he expected gasps. The judge just looked bored. Fisher went on. "He records everything, talks to himself, exhibits signs of paranoia. He once insisted the baby shouldn't attend a family brunch because the lighting was overstimulating." I leaned over to Brett. "That was during colic week. Lighting was overstimulating." Brett stood, cracked his knuckles, and said, "Your Honor, I have evidence to submit that directly contradicts these claims." He handed over a flash drive and a printed transcript. The judge adjusted her glasses and started scrolling. 5 minutes of silence followed while the courtroom held its breath. Amy fidgeted. Martin kept a frozen smirk. Then the judge said, without looking up, "This is a bedtime story." Brett nodded. "Yes, ma'am. That's Nate, reading to his daughter." I also included audio of him soothing the baby at 3 a.m., videos of him teaching her to grasp her bottle, and text messages from the mother requesting help at all hours. Amy looked pale now. Martin's jaw tightened. The judge tilted her head. "Ms. Grayson, do you dispute that you repeatedly requested his help with childcare in the weeks following the separation?" Amy's voice was small. I didn't mean it like that." "Like what?" the judge asked. "Like he's dangerous? Or like he's the one person consistently caring for your child?" Fisher tried to redirect, but the judge cut him off. Temporary custody will remain shared. Mr. Grayson may have overnight visitation 3 times a week. And I will be ordering a psychological evaluation for both parties. I looked at Amy. Her eyes were shiny. She mouthed something at me that I couldn't read. I didn't care. Martin stood, hissed, "You should have taken the offer, boy," and stormed out. That night, I didn't sleep in my car. I slept in my friend Caleb's garage, on an air mattress, with a baby monitor balanced on a crate. Because Maggie was there. And she smiled when she saw me. Like nothing else mattered. The first overnight with Maggie should have been peaceful. It wasn't. She screamed from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., straight, inconsolable. I bounced her, I sang, I walked figure eights in Caleb's garage until my back spasmed. My hands shook pouring formula. I forgot the burp cloth. At one point I sat on the floor, crying quietly into my sleeve while Maggie wailed like her lungs had vendettas. That's when Caleb came out, sleep-deprived and shirtless, holding 2 beers. "You look like a guy who just lost a custody hearing and found a baby on his doorstep." I half laughed, half sobbed. "I think I forgot how to be her dad." He handed me the beer. "You're still him." She just forgot what quiet sounds like. That night I got 1 hour of sleep. But I also got my first video clip of Maggie falling asleep in my arms again. I sent it to Brett. We needed proof of bonding. But Brett was more interested in something else. "Check this out," he said, sending me a screenshot of Martin's company's public financials. "Did you know your father-in-law's investment firm owns a 60% stake in Renwell Family Services? Never heard of it. You will. They're the third-party evaluator Amy's team just requested to handle your psych exam." I froze. "That's legal?" Brett shrugged. "It's shady. Not illegal. Yet." Amy had smiled too calmly in court. Fisher hadn't blinked once. The trap had been set before I ever walked into that courtroom. That afternoon, I got a call from a woman named Celia from Renwell Family Services. She said she'd like to schedule my assessment. I said I'd like it recorded and attended by a neutral third party. She paused. "We don't allow recordings," she said coolly. "Well, I don't allow evaluations designed by the opposing party's daddy." Click. 2 hours later, Fisher filed a motion to force compliance. Brett filed a countermotion within 10 minutes, citing conflict of interest, financial entanglement, and abuse of therapeutic process. The judge didn't even schedule a hearing. She ruled by memo. Renwell Family Services is disqualified due to potential bias. The court will appoint a state-certified psychologist with no private affiliation. I looked at the email 3 times. Then I whispered to Maggie, "We're still in this." That night, I ordered a lockbox for my phone, backed up every document I had, and made a new plan. Because this wasn't about being liked anymore. This was about making sure no one ever used my love for my daughter as a weapon again. And the next battle came faster than I expected. I didn't get the luxury of easing into the next crisis. It kicked my door in at 7:14 on a Thursday morning while I was feeding Maggie mashed bananas in Caleb's garage, both of us wearing more food than we ingested. A knock. Not police. Worse. Amy. She looked different. Not softer, not regretful, just scared. Eyes swollen, mascara smudged, cardigan slipping off one shoulder like she got dressed in a panic. She kept glancing over her shoulder, as if someone followed her. "Nate," she breathed. "Can I come in?" Caleb, half asleep and holding a wrench for no reason, whispered, "Bro, blink twice if she's armed." I waved him away and stepped outside. "What's going on?" I asked. She wrung her hands. "I shouldn't be here. My dad will lose it if he knows. But I needed to tell you something before it gets worse." My stomach dropped. Worse was the only direction this story had been heading. She glanced past me at Maggie in her high chair, kicking her feet and slapping banana mush against the tray. Amy's eyes softened, broke, then snapped back into panic. "My father hired a private investigator," she whispered, "to follow you. He wants footage. Anything he can use to say you're erratic or unsafe." "I figured," I said. "He's predictable like that." "No." She stepped closer. "It's not just that. Dad told Fisher he'd fix the problem if the judge doesn't rule his way. He said you only need one bad night. One mistake. And you'd lose her forever." Caleb, now fully awake, whispered behind me, "I'm grabbing the baseball bat." Amy kept talking, voice shaking. I didn't know he'd go this far, Nate. I thought it was just anger. But last night he said something I've never heard him say. He said, men get removed from the equation all the time. Like you're not a father. Like you're an obstacle. My throat tightened. What does Fisher know? I asked. Everything, she said. And he's helping. I stared at her. Why tell me? For the first time in months, I saw the woman I married, not the one coached by lawyers and a power-obsessed father. Because, she said, voice breaking, you didn't deserve this. And because he's turning into my father. And because Maggie needs you. She wiped her cheeks, smearing mascara. I'm sorry, she whispered. I let him convince me you were the problem. I let him make decisions I should have questioned. I let him speak for me. Are you saying you'll drop the custody fight? Her silence was a knife. I can't yet, she said. He'll cut me off financially. He'll take my car, my health insurance, everything. I'm trapped. I exhaled a humorless laugh. Welcome to my last 6 weeks. She flinched. But, she said quickly, I can help you. Quietly. When I hear something. When he plans something. You're asking me to trust you. I said. No. She whispered. I'm asking you not to trust him. She reached out and touched Maggie's cheek. Our daughter giggled and grabbed her finger. Amy broke all the way then. I miss her, she sobbed. I miss both of you. And I believe that part. But belief didn't erase what she'd done. Still, this wasn't the moment to take a victory lap. This was a woman terrified of the man who raised her. You need to be careful, I said. If he finds out you're talking to me. I know, she said. Just be ready. He's planning something big before the next hearing. What kind of something? She shook her head. I don't know. But he said you're one incident away from disappearing. My chest froze solid. Amy turned to leave, pulling her cardigan tighter around her. I'll call when I know more. She hurried to her car and drove away, checking her mirrors every 10 seconds. Caleb came up behind me. So, what's the plan? I kept watching the road she disappeared down. Plan? I said. We stop waiting for his next move. I turned to him. And we make ours. This wasn't defense anymore. This was war. War looks different when you're holding a 6-month-old in one arm and scanning your driveway for hidden cameras. Step 1 was protection. I installed cameras outside Caleb's garage, 2 at the front, 1 at the back, 1 inside pointed at the crib. Not because I thought anyone would break in. Because I knew they already had, just not physically. Martin's power was subtler than crowbars and ski masks. His version of a home invasion came with legal stationery and a smirk. Step 2 was the tracker. Brett handed it to me in a brown paper envelope at a diner. Put this on Amy's car, he said, between bites of eggs. If she's telling the truth and he's making her follow you or vice versa, we'll see. I stared at the tiny GPS unit. Is this even legal? Brett wiped his mouth. Technically? No. But we're not trying to get her arrested. We're trying to see if he is using her as bait. I didn't love it. But I also didn't love the idea of disappearing. So, I waited until Amy dropped Maggie off on her scheduled overnight. She stayed for exactly 42 seconds, kissed the baby's head, and said nothing with her mouth but everything with her eyes. I installed the tracker under her rear bumper after she drove off. It pinged locations to a burner app. I told Caleb I felt like I was violating the Geneva Convention. He handed me a beer and said, if you want to win custody against a man who thinks people are chess pieces, you're going to have to play on the board he built. Step 3? Catch the leak. We set a trap. Brett had me create a fake document, made it look like I was planning to move out of state with Maggie, a typed notice of relocation, full of legalese. I printed 1 copy, left it on the kitchen table, and then waited. 48 hours later, Fisher filed an emergency motion claiming I was fleeing the state with the minor. We had him. The judge was furious. Asked how he got that information. Fisher blamed an anonymous tip. Brett handed over security footage from the crib cam. A grainy, black and white video of Amy leaning down to kiss the baby, and snapping a photo of the notice on the kitchen table. She hadn't seen the red bait watermark on the bottom corner. Judge sanctioned her with a warning. This is your one and only pass, she said. Any further manipulation of evidence or breach of your co-parent's privacy will be met with full legal consequence. Amy didn't even look up. But Martin did. He was in the back row. Arms folded. A vein throbbing near his temple. After court, Amy followed me to the parking lot. "You trapped me," she said, low and trembling. I turned to her, calm. "No. You chose to play his game. I just reminded you the rules go both ways." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Just grief and guilt in the shape of a woman who had everything and still wanted control. I got in my car and drove away. And that night, at exactly 11:42 p.m., my burner phone buzzed with an unknown number. One-word text. "Run. ****. Followed by a live location ping. From the tracker. Amy's car. Parked 1 block from Caleb's house. She wasn't inside. But someone was. And they weren't moving. I killed the headlights a block from Caleb's house and coasted into a parking space like it was a stakeout scene from some low-budget thriller, except this wasn't fiction. This was me, in the middle of the night, watching my daughter sleep on a baby monitor while some unknown threat sat parked 200 feet away. I didn't call the cops, not yet. I called Caleb. He answered on the second ring, groggy. "Tell me this isn't what I think it is." "Someone's in Amy's car," I said. Tracker pinged it outside the garage. "Engines off. Lights are out. No movement for the last 10 minutes. Want me to grab the bat again?" "No," I said. "This isn't bat territory. This is lens territory." I reached into the glove box and pulled out the disposable camera Brett had insisted I keep. "Evidence," he said. "Not confrontation." I crept down the street, using parked cars as cover, until I could get a clean line of sight. Then I saw the shape. A man. Silhouetted behind the steering wheel. Phone in hand. His face lit up just enough for me to snap a photo. Another. A third. He was older. Not Martin. Definitely not Amy. Then the car door cracked open. I ducked. He got out slowly, scanned the street, and walked to the corner. Paused. Lit a cigarette. Flicked it away after one puff. Then walked back to the car and drove off without headlights. I stood there, heart in my throat, camera trembling in my hand. Caleb opened the garage door and waved me back inside. "What the hell was that?" "Surveillance," I said. "And not amateur. No lights. No movement. Patient. Professional." Caleb rubbed his face. "You think Martin hired someone?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The next morning, Brett confirmed it. His firm has 2 known private security contractors on retainer. Legit ones. Ex-military. Expensive. He stared at the photos I'd taken, flipping through them slowly. "This guy matches a former recon specialist turned PI. Works under the table for civil cases like this. Gray area ethics, high intimidation value." "So what now?" I asked. "Police?" "Not yet," he said. "They'll just tell you it's not illegal to park on a public street. What we need is intent." Brett leaned forward. "We need them to do something." So we made another move. I leaked something. I told Amy, through a voicemail I knew she'd let Martin hear, that we were filing for a protective order. That we had audio of the man outside the house. That Caleb's neighbor had dashcam footage of the car's plates. All of it was a lie. We didn't have dashcam footage. We didn't even have the full plate. But Martin didn't know that. The next night, the burner phone buzzed again. This time, with a video. My daughter's stroller, outside Caleb's house. Slashed. Fabric torn. Wheels twisted. Handle bent like someone stomped it. No note. No message. Just silence and a timestamp. 3:12 a.m. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. "Intent," Brett said. "We just got it." We called the police. We filed a report. We showed the video. The officer didn't even blink. "Looks like intimidation. Not enough to make an arrest, but enough to flag." I handed him the GPS data. The photos. The tracker ping. And then I said the words I never wanted to say. "I believe they're going to try and make me look like a threat to my own child." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because it's what men like Martin do when they're about to lose control." I filed for an emergency injunction the next morning. Not against Amy. Against her father. And that night I got a new burner phone. Because the old one? It stopped ringing. It just started vibrating. Endlessly. Until the battery died. The new burner phone didn't last long. By day 3, it was compromised. I started getting calls from fake numbers. Survey agencies, bank security. Even one claiming to be my own attorney's assistant. They all had the same question: "Where are you staying now, Mr. Grayson?" I stopped answering altogether. Caleb upgraded the garage locks and wired a door alarm to a backup generator. Maggie slept with a white noise machine now, not just to drown out the world but to keep me from listening too hard to every creak, every wind gust, every imagined footstep. Meanwhile, the court date for the emergency injunction loomed. Brett showed up the night before with a folder the size of a dictionary and a bottle of whiskey. "This," he said, setting the folder on the table, "is the war." I opened it. Dozens of printed screenshots. Emails. Surveillance invoices. A redacted financial statement from Martin's firm with one line highlighted. "Private Investigation Custodial Analysis Project." Price tag? $42,000. "He paid to paint you as a threat," Brett said. "Used his own firm to do it. That's not just creepy, it's illegal if we prove intent to influence court proceedings." "Will it hold?" Brett sipped. "If the judge isn't blind, yes." That night, I rocked Maggie to sleep with a lullaby I'd been humming since the NICU. I whispered into her soft curls, "Daddy's gonna fix this. Even if it kills him." When we got to court the next morning, the courtroom felt colder than usual. Amy was already seated with Fisher, looking down, not at me. Martin wasn't there. Yet. The judge, an older woman with reading glasses halfway down her nose, shuffled papers with deliberate calm. "Mr. Grayson, you've requested an injunction against Martin Caldwell, maternal grandfather of the minor. Grounds include harassment, intimidation, and unsafe surveillance. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." Fisher stood immediately. "Objection, Your Honor. There's no direct evidence linking my client's father to any of these alleged behaviors." Brett stepped forward. "May I submit Exhibit B through G?" he said, calm as sunrise. The judge looked up. "Proceed." He laid out everything. The invoices. The stroller photo. The burner phone logs. The GPS tracker data. The Custodial Analysis Project. Invoice bearing Martin Caldwell's signature. Fisher turned pale. Amy looked like she'd been punched in the stomach. The judge peered over the rims of her glasses. "And where is Mr. Caldwell today?" Fisher cleared his throat. "Unavailable, Your Honor." "How convenient." The silence in that room could have swallowed the sun. Then the judge issued the order. "Effective immediately, Martin Caldwell is not to contact, surveil, or interfere with Mr. Grayson or the minor in any capacity. He is barred from being within 500 feet of either party. Violation will result in contempt of court, arrest, and potential civil liability." I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. The judge wasn't done. "As for Ms. Grayson," she said, turning to Amy, "you will explain to this court why you withheld knowledge of your father's surveillance campaign. If I find you were complicit, your custodial privileges will be reassessed." Amy's voice cracked. "I didn't know how to stop him." "Then perhaps," the judge said, "you should have tried." Afterward, outside the courtroom, Amy approached me. "I'm sorry," she said. I looked at her. Really looked. "I believe you," I said. "But I don't trust you." And for once, she didn't argue. She just nodded. Maggie reached for me from her stroller. And I realized, I wasn't just fighting for time with her anymore. I was fighting for the right to raise her without fear. The morning of the final custody hearing, I dressed Maggie in her soft yellow onesie, the one Amy said made her look like sunlight, and packed her diaper bag like it was armor. I walked into that courtroom knowing this was it. Not just a legal decision. A definition of my future. Amy sat across from me, no pearls this time. Just a quiet, hollow kind of resignation. Martin wasn't there. Neither was Fisher. Amy came with a new attorney and a different expression. When the judge asked for final statements, Amy stood up first. Her voice shook. "I was wrong," she said. "Not about loving my daughter, but about thinking I could be a mother by erasing her father." She turned to me. "He's the better parent. He's the safer one." Then she sat down and wept into her hands. The judge looked stunned, then nodded. Full custody to me. Supervised visits for Amy. No contact with Martin ever. I carried Maggie out of that courtroom, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "We're free now, baby girl. We're finally free."